yes, it is Christmas. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Chin chin.
Cheers, everyone.
Salute. Oh,
It's Christmas!
when will this one be out?
Funny enough, around Christmas time.
But date-wise, do you know? No, I think
But we've recorded.
I think it's Christmas. No, I think it's due out Christmas Day.
Oh, is it? Well, this is August the 20th today, innit? So God knows when this will be out.
Yeah. 6 month lead time.
26th, Boxing Day.
Yeah.
Oh, Boxing Day.
Do you want to release
yeah,
Box?
okay, nice.
Yeah,
Boxing Day special.
Yeah.
Bosh yesterday wearing I love Christmas.
Genuine nice.
The Boxing Day special. Yeah.
Welcome to Craig Charles later then.
Peggy Mitchell comes in.
I love it.
No, we can't. Surely you'll be able to have a pint of Crimbo.
Yeah.
I will. Well,
I will be
I'll
somewhere drunk anyway on Boxing Night.
Yeah.
That's it. People are going to find a way anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whether it's round at people's houses or in pubs that are open.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or just on the streets.
Yeah.
You can't stop us all, can they?
Drinking on the
Shit,
streets has
shit,
come normal again, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, it will be next week. Oh.
You'd like to think so, but God knows what's going to happen between now and being August and December.
But anyway, today's guests, Scottie Press.
Scottie Press.
Hola.
Yeah. Hola. Bonjour.
Yeah, nice to be
We're there
here.
with Lewis and with Joel as well. And we'll have a little cheers, shall we, Oscar?
I think we've just done one, didn't we?
That was off camera, Jack.
No, I think we've just done another one on camera.
Did we? Oh,
Yeah.
we'll do 3 then.
That was good on last week's episode. We were like, what episode's this? And he said 18. And we were like, sound, are we off? And then he thought he was just like, by the way, it's episode 18. And then Jay went, and episode 18? And I was like, no, we've started already with episode. We just went straight, he was like, oh. But episode 19 anyway.
Episode 19.
So thank you for coming on.
No, it's good to be here.
Yeah.
It's always good to be a part of other independent media.
That's what it's all about. Hear that, Jay? Independent media.
I'm blushing though.
We got called professional last week.
Did you?
Or the week before.
But
Yeah.
is it still professional? I feel like, as I said, I'm in a job interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a tie. You're not getting it.
I've got a martini, so I'm alright.
I wish you'd have said that on camera, you know.
What?
That you've never had a passion fruit martini
I
in a
know,
job
yeah.
interview.
Yeah. Well, so
You can
earlier.
say it now.
So before, I said to Lewis, how many passion fruit martinis you had in a job interview? And he said 3.
Oh, we laughed.
And boy, did
we
we
laughed.
You are? Oh, he's on the
He's on
Bulldogs,
the
the
IPA.
Dead Ponies. We've got a lot of ale here as well.
It is Christmas, Jack, as we said before, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Boxing Day, Jay. But it's back to the independent media. So, Scottie Press, a local community newspaper. Been going for 50 years in February.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you two are very 50 years, Jay, you know. And you two are very much a part of it, aren't you?
Yeah.
So if you just want to explain what you do, both of you. So the editor-in-chief and is it journalist? Do you have
I'm the assistant editor of the paper.
Yeah.
And then you're the editor, aren't you, Joel?
editor,
Yeah.
assistant editor?
Yeah, so I mean, I come into it about 4 years ago now. And I mean, I mentioned a little bit to you before, sort of come into it blind, really. Didn't know loads about the paper, sort of knew it. My family were from around the Scotland Road area. And yeah, I got it on basically like a 6-month internship, essentially. Go and help out a local newspaper. But sort of arrived there and realised that, there was no one there actually running it. So I expected to go there, get a little bit of experience there to be like an editor and journalist and some staff. But it was just, this massive newspaper archive and essentially looking for someone to try and keep it going. And then I met Lewis initially through that because he'd already sort of volunteered because he was already living around the local area and was sort of a part of the paper. So it's
Paper's biggest fan.
I grew up with it during the
longest employee as well, technically. Yeah.
I started there in 2015, so I started volunteering around first year of uni, I think it was, because I knew I wanted to build up my portfolio and stuff. And then volunteered for a few years, went to London, and then when I came back from London last year, I got the opportunity to come on as assistant editor, so obviously I jumped at it.
Right, so you was a journalist before, wasn't you? Am I right?
Yeah,
you was in
yeah.
uni, and then the assistant editor to come back. Boss.
Sound journalist though, not one of them knobhead ones.
What's the difference, mate? Explain.
Well,
viewers.
we talk about council corruption and shit, do you know what I mean? Not someone's being caught for selling weeds. Why are you humiliating thingy criminals, do you know what I mean? They're trying to make a living themselves, so We just like look at the real stories that need to be
Tackle the
told.
issues.
Yeah, that other papers in the city won't touch.
And it's one of them as well. Like, there's not. I mean, I think a lot of papers like the Scottie Press probably existed at some point in like the 70s and the 80s, but like
It's got bought out.
yeah, local newspapers don't really exist anymore unless they're part of like another sort of bigger organisation. So like independent in like the real word independent, you know, there isn't that many anymore. And sort of, I suppose in the time in recent years as well, like a lot of things have filled the gaps of independent media, like podcasting, like the fact that anyone's essentially a journalist can go on social media and give their opinion, have their say, and give information to other people and can communicate with other people. Whereas, you know, years ago that you could only do that through a newspaper essentially or other news outlets. So really, that, you know, it's a sort of testimony to, you know, the fact Scottie Press is still about, that, you know, it is doing something that isn't being delivered through social media that you can't find anywhere else, and I think especially over the past few years since me and Lewis have been doing it, you know, we've definitely found you know, a voice for the paper again, and we're definitely hitting on subjects that matter and aren't being covered either by local media or even national media, but, you know, the big stories and the feedback we've got has been positive. So it's, you know, it's sort of encouraged us to continue doing that type of thing as well.
Yeah, it's a very close-knit community, Scottie, as well. So I'm not surprised Scottie has its own paper.
L5 is alive.
But it doesn't surprise me that there's a Scottie Press, because obviously everyone has local community papers, but Scottie L5 is its own little thing, isn't it, in a way? So
Scottie's like Liverpool in itself. I think the way like Scousers are very proud people. Yeah. And I think that like Scottie's a very proud area. Like if you're from Scottie, you let people know. What am I like? Like I'm always saying I'm from Scottie, do you know what I mean? I'm just that proud to be from that area. So I think that's what Scottie Press represents, do you know what I mean? Like just telling the stories of the people in that community.
Yeah. It's an identity, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
That's it, innit, defo. That's what I think. I think, you know, people associate with it, and, you know, because obviously Scotland Road was destroyed in like sort of 1970s onwards, you know, the sort of changes in infrastructure, government policy, like changed the actual, you know, landscape of the local area. So a lot of the community got displaced, and I think the paper sort of still resembles and, you know, continues that identity and that community. So sort of part of keeping the paper alive is keeping the community alive in some sense, I think.
Did I see it was Britain's longest community...
longest running community newspaper.
There we go. I took the words out
it's
my
not
mouth.
just the longest piece of paper. That's a bell to that.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's one of them. I mean, when I started and when Lewis started, you know, that was already sort of attached to the paper, and, you know, no one else has claimed it. So, you know, I think we must be.
So you think the main reason why there's a lot of papers, local newspapers around the time you said before, have sort of been bought out by larger companies. Do you think that from your time looking into older stuff with like the archives with Scottie Press, has the paper changed a lot, would you say, or would you say you're just trying to change it in a way which is better for a more modern society in a way?
Like social media, because obviously it's traditionally print, and you were saying people used to subscribe to the paper, pay for it, but everyone in Scottie got it. How do you take being the longest running community newspaper is some achievement, but obviously the way the world is, the way media is, journalism, how do you take that notoriety and kind of that success and spin it into the modern target audience or the modern society?
Well, like, I think what we've done is we went back to our roots, and like Scottie Press was always grassroots journalism. It was like covering campaigns and protests and stuff like that, and we've like went back to focusing on that, because I think before you were the editor and before I was there, like the paper was kind of being in a decline. So yeah, it's just
how so? In a decline in terms of journalism standards or reading?
In journalism standards, because I remember when I first started, which was before you were there, it was a man called Kevin Kane running the paper, and he was brilliant, but he didn't really push the paper to like where it's got to now, do you know what I mean? He had no push for it, but like the stories that we're covering now are more hard hitting, and like, you know, we're going out and we're speaking to people and we're listening and we're telling them stories.
Yeah, and I think as well, again, going back to social media, it's because a lot of things that would have featured in, you know, a local newspaper, whether it's something happening in a local shop or an advert or just an announcement, people can do that themselves on their own platform for free. So it's like there's so much content that would have gone into a newspaper in the past that just, you know, there isn't a need for it anymore. So I think journalism's got to change, but I think we've actually probably gone back to what it was like when it first started in the 70s, like covering like hard-hitting subjects sometimes and actually tackling big issues and doing proper investigations, which I think people value, and it does well because most people don't have time to do stuff like that. You know what I mean? You might have an opinion, you might hear something, you might see a problem in your community, but you don't know the full story, and like finding out what the full story is requires time. You can't go through like you can't look through like say say the planning portal and looking like why things are being built, who's building it, what the councillors think. You know, it's such a big task. So unless there is sort of grassroots journalists really like reporting on issues in detail and laying it all out, you know, no one would actually know what happens, and there'd be no you know, and there'd be no transparency as well in basically local governments and local councils.
No, there's a hunger for that as well, because especially with, like, for lack of a better phrase, fake news, or like the misinformation age which we live in, is like we've went from the information age of like, oh, you can have access to anything, to how do you decipher what's real and what's bullshit. Do you know what I mean? So there's a hunger for that when there's someone who you can trust, put your confidence in, think they're doing the right thing. But how do you kind of tackle that challenge of, I don't know, just, what's the phrase I'm looking for?
Getting trust off people.
Not getting trust off people, because obviously being established, but how do you respond to fake news or information, or like people not getting trust? How do you respond to people not knowing who to believe?
We definitely don't get like our interviews off Twitter. We don't copy and paste tweets that we see. Like we actually go out and speak to people, and I think if you're tackling stories that like the community is coming to you and telling you to report on, you get respect then. Do you know what I mean? And like,
it gives them a voice as well, doesn't it?
And I find a lot of the time with like mainstream media, they don't like, they're always reporting from some kind of bias, and like at Scottie Press,
agenda.
An agenda. And at Scottie Press, we've got no agenda. Like, if there's something going on, we're going to report on it. We don't care whose foot we're stepping on or toes we're stepping on. Do you know what I mean? We'll happily, like, we're not bothered about that. So I think people just respect that kind of, you know, that we will call out the council if they're doing something wrong, or we will call out, I don't know, who else? Merseyside police, if like, you know, if they're being too brutal, whatever, stuff like that. So
yeah, that's what journalism's for, though, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's giving people a voice.
But I think journalism has shied away from that a lot recently, like local journalism, because a lot of local journalism at the minute is like powered through local councils and that. Do you know what I mean? They get funding, but we don't get
propaganda.
Like, but we don't really get funding from the council, so we haven't got any agenda. Do you know what I mean? Like we're just our own thing.
It's politics with a lot of papers as well. Like you look at the Daily Mail and go, that's a Conservative paper. You look at the Mirror and say that's a Labour paper. So their stories are going to be based on that agenda. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And the agenda that the editors got, like for who they're mates with. Do you know what I mean? Like that's where like tabloids and big papers come from.
So what's your agenda?
Everyone has an agenda, like, cause it's just what are you out to get. But what you're out to get is saving the community with stories that add value to the community. That, in my opinion, is a positive agenda.
It's hard not to have an agenda. I mean, I've started doing a story and been like, this is my opinion, and this is what I want the outcome to be, because this is the way I see it. And then I go,
can you write without an agenda?
But then I'll go out and speak to people, and that's not what the case is. You know what I mean? So it might change your opinion, it might not, but you've got to, you've got to go against your own biases. You know what I mean? I may think quite strongly on something and think, this is, I feel like it's this, but I can't let that come across in my article. You know what I mean? Yeah. It might do. There might be a sort of an underlying point if I feel like there is a sort of a need to get across something. Yeah. But you've always got to remain somewhat neutral, even if it's against your own, your own thoughts and ideas.
So is that part of the ethics of journalism, is being neutral? Is that like something that's...
Because you're telling someone else's story, you're not telling your story or your opinion. If you want to do that, do like feature writing and stuff. But if you're doing like proper journalism, like news articles and stuff, you're telling other people's stories, so you don't want to come in with your own like bias or agenda. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not you're telling the story, but it's not your story to tell.
Oh, okay, I didn't mean that type of agenda. I just meant, what are you wanting to get out of the work you're doing agenda? Not like a pushing your opinion.
No.
So you like that then? No, I understand like putting an agenda on something is spin, like that's
Yeah,
all it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Not that type of agenda. I just meant what are you out to get? Everyone has that in life, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
In journalism, and I don't know whether a lot of people have this, but I think you can kind of smell an agenda a mile away, can't
Oh,
you?
yeah,
Like
definitely.
if
Oh
you,
yeah.
when you read something, you think where are the facts? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Or say if you read a newspaper, you get the vibe of the paper straight away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the things I've seen that you were doing online is looking into more like into art and culture. And is that like something that you thought is like with the stuff that's going on in the city, especially something you'd had to report on a way because like
Yeah, 100%.
there's so much stuff going on, isn't there? Do you know
Defo,
what I
and I
mean?
think the art sector at the minute, like, because it's struggling so much with COVID,
it
like,
needs a voice.
yeah, it does need a voice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think in a, especially around like, I mean, obviously we, you know, the main focus is in around Scotland Roads area, but especially since we've been sort of expanding the paper and relaunching it, we're like reporting on the further regions in North Liverpool as well. So we've probably expanded the area that we actually report in, and I think especially art and culture probably a little bit overlooked in North Liverpool in comparison to maybe the city centre in the south.
South, definitely.
So
yeah.
even just trying to highlight stuff that, you know, is happening, but people don't know about. And I suppose the other thing as well, there's definitely a move for that area to be more of a sort of arts and culture hub. I don't know, you know, much about like the dock area and the plans for 10 streets and like all the companies that are popping up on in and around Regent Road. That's all arts based, you know. They're trying to, you know, well, they say they're not, but you know, they're trying to sort of mirror the Baltic Triangle, and you know, obviously they want to do something different themselves, but it's that type of thing. So I think there's almost, you know, there's literally a different demographic moving into that area. There's more students as well, so I think you know, there's probably a higher demand for it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like you say, telling other people's story at the moment. The arts culture needs someone to tell that story, or as many people as they can to tell that story.
You were saying then you sort of rebranded, relaunch. What did you do to relaunch and rebrand the paper? What did you decide to do to make it where it is today, sort of thing?
Well, we sort of went back and forth with what we were going to do, and obviously,
Can I just interject? Do you know what I love? The archives.
Yeah, I do.
yeah, so
And
The archive pics.
Yeah, where have you got them photos from? Like, are they sent in?
There's literally,
thousands.
yeah, like there's so
thousands.
many. Like it's literally an archive of like.
It were like a little
I'd say the
museum.
North Liverpool, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
got
yeah.
because so many different areas are involved.
But where have you got the pictures from? Are they like back in the day, the Scottie Press archives, or like what do you call
It's
it?
Christmas, come on.
Just actually want one. I don't know where these have just come from. Sorry.
It's not real owners.
The best job interviews ever been. Martinis and Oreo.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Writing for audio, hopefully.
The vegan as well. Then.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going back to the rebranding, what decisions did you make,
Yeah.
sort of thing?
So I think when we were first discussing it, so we're like when we come in, like I was first funded for 6 months, managed to get a little bit more funding, managed to, you know, get Lewis some funding. So, but we didn't have any money to actually do anything with. So we actually applied for some grants, got some grants in. And then we're thinking, right, okay, what we want to do is we definitely want to rebrand and sort of relaunch, get a new website. A lot of what you're seeing now is like quite new, in like within sort of the past year. But obviously it's a very sort of traditional newspaper. It had like, you know, quite a loyal readership. Probably most of them, the likes of my nan, read the paper and loved the paper. Same with Lewis, and it was an older generation, no doubt.
Definitely.
Like when we first took it over, so we knew we had to sort of give it a a bit of a new lease of life, really, and get some like I suppose more appealing designs and aesthetics to it, so it appeals to the younger audience. So, but then again, we knew that we had to, you know, keep our, you know, older readers interested, and we didn't want to make sort of something too modern and flash that would, you know, potentially
Scare off.
and just not be, you know, within the sort of the brand of Scottie Press. So we actually basically just went back to the look of the paper in the 70s.
Yeah.
like we literally did. Like what you see now, like the orange, like, you know, like the orange Scottie Press on top of the paper, like the masthead. That's from like the earlier issues, and again, a lot of what we done was just trying to incorporate sort of the traditional elements of like the old newspaper, but then add a bit of a modern flair to it as well.
I
So,
think
yeah.
that'll do well for the modern kind of reader as well, because think like vinyl. Do you know what I mean? Like people
Exactly,
love vinyl,
yeah.
or like I love a magazine. Like
People
how
love
often do you-
nostalgia, don't they?
Yeah, and like,
Yeah.
oh, look at this there. And my nan, she's from L5, and she she used to mention the Scottie Press, and I'd never heard of it, and I just think it was just something of times gone by, and then when you mentioned you was working there, I was like, wow, I remember me now when I was a kid talking about it. And it's just, obviously, it's very active, it's very still.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people think that it like has died sometimes because we haven't been as frequent, have we? Like publishing.
It does me head in when people think it's dead and I'm like working my ass off.
No, it's not. Follow us on Instagram.
But I think that's it as well, because a lot of our audience is older, do you know what I mean? So if they haven't got a print copy in front of them, they're not reading online. Like, how many nans and granddads do you get like reading on a phone, do you know what I mean? Like, can just about read WhatsApp text. So.
Not glasses on the end of them.
Just the one finger.
Just the one finger.
What does that say there?
I mean, that's one of the mad things about the paper. Like, you forget, like, or like, especially since I've got like been working there, you forget how many people know about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can go to like, honest to God, like the amount of places have been completely out of Liverpool, unassociated conversations about the paper, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I know the Scottie Press, or like I know Scotland Road, or I used to play in the Scotland Road Football League, and they know about the paper, and it's like, you know, it's
it was a big league, the Scottie Road Football League, though.
Yeah, exactly, and like we only really got social media like fairly recently, like since me and Lewis have been doing it. But you notice like there's a much bigger audience than that, you know, don't actually read it online as well. So it's you know, it's about accommodating for everyone, I suppose, as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Not everything's online, is it?
No.
That's why me and Jay do weekly talks, don't we? In person in the Philharmonic. There is a podcast that does that. They go round. Well, there's a few, but they go round places and like do live podcasts.
I like stuff like that. There's one where the mum and someone like they invite people around for foods and just like
have a chat.
Have the favourite dish. Jesse wears table manners or something it's called. It's alright.
Love that. Yeah. Speaking of podcast though, your new podcast, Loud and Proud.
Yeah.
Love it.
So that's just a podcast focused on LGBT in Liverpool, because I just don't think that, like, you know, LGBT plus voices get much of a platform in Liverpool. I don't think there's much going on for us, or you don't hear about it anyway. So hopefully this podcast will just like bridge the gap, you know, between like what the conversations that we have in society, if that makes sense. If I just chat the shit there, does that make?
No, not at all, mate. You've definitely got the job anyway, don't worry. No, but I was speaking to Lewis earlier, before, like, when we were stocking up on the ale, and we were just discussing podcasts, and we said the reason we started the podcast was we know all these cool people and show them off. Similar kind of vibe, isn't it? Like, kind of giving people a voice. Same with Scottie Press, giving people a voice, and kind of, because there's so much going on in Liverpool, isn't there?
Oh,
like,
yeah, 100%.
And I think it's genuine, isn't it? And that's what podcasting does. It's, you know, it's genuine conversation.
Get to know the person, the people.
Yeah.
It is.
We need to get the Scottie Press podcast on the go, don't we?
Yeah. We've been talking.
I think it'd do well, you know.
Well, we
with our retail Scottie, get it on.
Imagine all the Karens you could get in. All the Karens.
A few Scouse Nans on a podcast.
Oh, love it. I love Scouse Nans.
That should be the podcast.
Yeah,
let's go.
The first episode we discussed, we had a topic, so we've got a topic of the week every week. It was favourite Scouse Nan thing, and it was like, go on a message for me, or, you know, just like shouts that they say, or like, you're hungry now, I've got this here, you know, just proper trying to feed you. Scouse Nans, lads, get them on.
Do you know what when we best Nan, I remember at the time I couldn't think of anything, it was on the spot. You went, what's your Nan? I was like, it just come to me head then. My Nan said about, like, she used to say about Alex Ferguson, if he crawls in a bucket of shit, he'd still come up clean.
Scouse Nan shout. I feel like my nan's from Scottie, and I feel like most Scouse Nans are from Scottie.
Yeah,
it's like
all Scousers originally from Scottie
somehow. Have all come from one area.
There's a proper identity. The only thing I can say it's similar to, like, is like, do you know, like Manchester and the Salford? It's like that away. It's like, you're not from Liverpool. I'm from Scottie.
Yeah,
you know, I'm from Liverpool, but I'm from Scottie. Not just.
I've always wondered why people say Salford, because it's so close to the city centre.
No.
That's why.
No, Salford's is a city of itself.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's not like, I'm not from Manchester. I'm from Salford. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
But
go on.
No, I was just going to say, someone said to me once, Liverpool's the city of 100 villages or 1,000 villages, and I always thought it's quite true. I mean, even like
Bootle.
Well, yeah, because it's like, and everyone has like a really strong identity. It's quite tribal, Liverpool, and I think a lot of it goes back to like even like the parishes, and when people used to like like that'd be your church, that'd be your local school attached to it, and even if it was someone, you know, a few minutes down the road, if they were in another church in another place, they would be in their own place. They would have their own identity. you weren't like part of that community, and it is, you can see it, like you can see like different areas, and say if you weren't local, you wouldn't know you were sort of crossing a border, but if you're from around that area, that's like, somewhere else. If you go over that road, that's somewhere else.
So my mum and dad grew up in Norris Green, and they used to talk about the Crown pub and like, oh, but we didn't go past the Crown. And to me, like, I'm living my girl, got mates from Scottie, I'll travel £15 in a taxi to go and see them. And I'm like, you wouldn't even cross that road. Like, we don't know anyone from down there. Like, it's over the road.
It's like the most alien place ever.
But it definitely. What?
Trabs.
Yeah, someone once said to me about Liverpool, though, you know you're Scouse when you can say what road you're from in Liverpool. So, like, Vauxhall Road, Scottie Road, Park Road, Breck Road. Like, when you can say the road you're from, that's when you're Scouse. And I was like, that is very Scouse to say the road.
I see Smith, Yeah,
from Smith Down Road, do you know what I mean? It's like, you don't even need to mention the place from the road.
Yeah.
Scouse, that isn't it?
That's true. I never thought about that.
Yeah, definitely.
What, a question I have for both of you what have you learned? What have you learned most about Liverpool since you've started working for the paper? Is anything like interesting you found out or anything?
More specifically for you, mate, because you're actually from L5. What's changed? What's been the biggest like whoa? Like what's
probably
a revelation?
How much that people do actually care about stuff that goes on. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't, unless you're doing a story on it, you don't really hear about it. But like, you know, you don't pay attention to it, do you? But like, actually going out and speaking to people, it makes you realise how much of like a community there still is, because I think a lot of areas have lost that community now because of the way, you know, everywhere it is now. Like it's either you're either a student or you're a local, or people just don't seem to mix. You know what I mean?
A bit more multicultural now in Liverpool in a whole lot.
Like, that's what Scottie, like for me, does. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's a very passionate place, and they actually do care, and they're still like campaigning that. Like recently spoke to some parents that have been campaigning to save teaching assistants at a school, and like they were just relentless in the campaign, and do you know what I mean? It's boss to see like that.
Coming
like
together and that,
people got that much passion. Do you know what I mean?
What about yourself, Joel?
I was just trying to think. So
you must learned a lot about Scottie.
Lewis knows everyone in Scotland. Mr. Scottie.
I mean, definitely like how obviously like close like that community is, but on Liverpool on a whole, I suppose just how I mean, I already knew it anyway, but how in a way how insular it like Liverpool is in a sense. It's you know, that the whole Republic of Liverpool. Yeah. Like it's so true, and it's, you know, I think it's in culture, but it's also, you know, it is sort of ingrained in like, you know, local council, development, you know, business, everything that happens. Like there's definitely a network or a bubble in Liverpool, and it's, you know, it very much sort of sticks to its own in a sense, I think. Yeah. Like it doesn't.
Scouse is more than a place in it. Like it's an identity in it. Definitely.
There's an my mum says you are what you eat. I have Scouse every day.
That joke's at the end, mate.
No, but one of the things, I can't remember what it was. It was like they were talking about going to Liverpool, like the first time they'd been to Liverpool, and he's like, I've been to.
You robbed that joke off me. I sent you a picture of my tea saying you are what you eat.
Who cares?
That's it.
Anyway, no, that's it. You are what you know. What I've literally of a bowl of Scouse.
Forgot what I was going to say now. Thank you, Jack.
Solly ale, lad.
No.
Your mum has a thing.
Somebody, I can't remember what it was. Somebody quite famous said they've been to like. I feel like I've been to like a city like Liverpool like hundreds of times, but there's nowhere like Liverpool in the world. I feel like I've been to a city like it that looks the same, everything like that, but there's nowhere like it in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what Carl Jung is?
I was just going to say that one, but yeah.
He's a psychologist. You know Sigmund Freud?
Yeah.
Freud. So we work closely with him. He's like a renowned psychologist, and he said,
"Is he still alive?"
No, he's dead now. But he said Liverpool's the pool of life, and he'd never been to Liverpool.
Oh really?
Yeah, but he knew Liverpool was the pool of life. There's, as you go down Matthew Street, have you seen it?
Yeah. Well, funny enough, that was the last book I read, A Man and the Symbols by Carl Jung. Awesome, and like, well, because he is.
Thank you very much.
He's like dream analysis, isn't he? And like, he's like the, you know, the
synchronicities. And,
and like all that, and you know, some of it's like really far out on what he speaks about, but like
most of it's got legs though.
But yeah, it's about as credible as you get when it's you know, regarding them subjects. And he dreamt about Liverpool, didn't he? Seen it in a dream, and he said it's like the heart, it's like the center of creativity in the universe. Universe or something, which is like about as cool as you can get, really.
Someone who's never been, a psychologist who's never been to Liverpool, dreamt about the place and said, that's the centre of everything.
It's sick, that.
Like, yeah, boss, isn't it?
It's not long though, is he? Do you know what I mean?
No, it's not. But as you go down Matthew Street, like, I think Sutton Apples or Flanagan's Apple. So you come down, you know, like from Victoria Street, and it bends round. There's like his head has been engraved into the wall, like a sculpture.
You know, I've never actually seen it. Like, I know it's there, but I've never actually gone and looked at it.
Well, I didn't know it was there, and I walked past it, and I was like, that's a mad statue. What's that? I was like, go and have a look at it. I was like, I'll leave it. And then I was like, forget about it, go back where he was going. And the next day I seen someone put on Instagram a picture of it. He got a selfie next to it explaining all about Carl Jung, and I was like, that is insane.
Yeah, that is insane.
And he's all, but
that's
Carl Jung,
synchronicity.
that's a
isn't it?
synchronicity, yeah. So
Like-
Carl Jung talks about synchronicities. You know, synchronicities when like things just start happening, and it's like you talk about a red car and you see 10 of them, or you talk about someone and you see them.
Hang on, you said about Lorraine before, and I was watching Lorraine's Best Bits last night.
Yeah, and you're on it next week. Did you actually watch Lorraine's Best Bits?
She's funny, isn't
She's
she?
a lot of
Lorraine.
job interviews went from, it's been like an elevator, hasn't it, all the way up?
The longest job interview you've been in.
I know. It's alright, I forgot the job, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a few other candidates.
We'll get back to you.
Not often someone brings the current manager to
I'm just here to vouch for him.
I'm a reference.
But you said about the paper, obviously, as well, which I feel like I've got to ask you this question. You were saying it's giving people a voice in the community. Can you tell us about any like stories you've worked on recently, anything you've like started been working on, anything like that?
Yeah, so I've done one on, trying to think what ones I've done recently. So, you know St John's Market?
Yeah.
That was going to get closed down, not forever, but like they were basically looking at getting the traders out of there because there was rumours going around that something else was going in there because it is a big, massive like, thingy, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so we covered their protest, and finally, after like weeks of protesting, I think about 2 or 3 weeks of protesting, they opened the markets and like let all the traders back in. So that was like a little success story that we've had recently.
What did they think was going on? Like illegal activity?
No, they just wanted them out because they probably want to put like, you know, that sit wire that was meant to be coming here. Do you reckon that they was going to put the sit wire? Yeah, the sit wire like you know where you go to the reception and that.
And your Radio City is the tower.
Yeah.
They're going to do a zip wire from around there, and it's meant to be quite long as well.
Do you know what?
It was, I've never, well, it's been like really poorly received because like everyone was like, well, because obviously it's these like iconic buildings and like a lot of it's like, you know, grade 2 listed buildings.
Where is this site?
You know the sit wire.
St John.
Where?
The sit wire that was meant to go.
Oh yeah.
So about St John's, they said they just done a story on St John's about meant to be closing.
Yeah.
St John's Markets was going to get closed down, but then there was protests and now it's saved. But the sit wire.
Not go for a wee there, by the way. I broke the sea on that.
But yeah, the sit wire was meant to go in there like the reception place. So do you reckon they were trying to get the traders out so they can put them in there? Do you know what I mean? The sit wire.
Yeah.
But one of the things about there as well, different to like, I know it's like a lot of the cities, like it's quite. There's a lot of like chain shops and that. Or most of St John's is all independent. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
But that's a shame if they're looking on closing down a place which is like, I'd imagine 90% all independent.
It's literally been here since Liverpool was a city.
Yeah.
Like since 1207.
Has it?
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
that's when it got Liverpool got made a city. It was based off King John, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who gave like the Sutton, and the traders used to gather and where like.
St John's Market existed before Liverpool itself.
Yeah.
didn't it?
Literally, so it's like older than Liverpool itself, and it was going to get closed down. It
See,
was
I had no idea until you done that story about that. Oh,
A fun bit of information I know about Liverpool was the difference between the reason like there's like Scottie Road Protestants and then Catholics in town.
yeah.
Wasn't that to do with like when Irish immigrants come over, they were Catholic, and then Protestants moved out of the city towards Scottie Road? Am I right? in
Might
saying?
have, but everyone's Catholic now in Scotty. So.
Yeah, so
are
the
they?
way I know it is like, so basically it's up the hill, meaning up past Everton Valley, Protestants, and then all the Catholics, so the Irish immigrants
On the flat part.
Yeah, but by the docks basically, which was a poorer area because obviously it was more industrialised.
Yeah.
So but the interesting thing around that area as well, it was all the Catholics were mainly Irish, but loads of Italians as well.
Oh really?
It was a similar mix, you know, like New York, and that's what they said. Like getting off at Liverpool was like the poor man's New York. So obviously there was loads of Irish and Italians who went and migrated.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh well, you got Italian in
You
it.
know, my second name could be Pal and Bella.
Yeah.
And I got Jennings. Like,
Do you know a fun...
Not as exotic as it.
Jennings. Do you know what Jennings is? L5 though, isn't it? Scouse.
It is,
Jennings.
it is. Scouse.
Yeah.
Jennings.
Like mine's proper Scottish, you know. MacDougall, he's
Yeah.
Scottish. You couldn't get it,
See,
you know what I mean?
I've got Danish. I'm handsome, but
Oh,
like so my great grandfather come over and actually lived in the flower streets in Kirkdale from
Oh,
Denmark. Yeah.
Boss.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
that.
That's great.
I don't know what I've got in me.
Roads.
Yeah, Rhodes. That's my
That's
dad.
Greek, that.
That's Greek. No, it's a Greek place. I don't know if it's a Greek. But it's sort of rewinding to the history of Liverpool. We've all had a drink here, yeah. Have you ever heard about the cornermen? The cornermen in Liverpool?
What?
So, like, do you know Tidebarn Street?
Oh yeah, I know
So-
Thai Bounce.
Yeah, so
Oh,
there used
yeah,
to be
yeah.
a thing in Liverpool, like cornermen, and like I think it was cornermen anyway, I might be wrong. I watched a documentary on the history of gangs in Liverpool,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and it talked about like Curtis Warren, Stephen French, but
Oh,
also
yeah.
like the original gangs back in the day, in like I don't know, like the 1900s type, and like the difference between those two gangs.
Mm.
It was saying like no one would walk down Tidebarn Street because of how like
Oh, really?
how many gangs there was, but not necessarily a gang. It was just like people coming together without work, unemployed, and like that was
Yeah.
that was the first
Mm.
essence of like groups in Liverpool, and like kind of where the stereotype comes from. That's what it was talking about. Is like when people had come to Liverpool off the docks, like like foreign like sailors or workers wouldn't walk up Tidebarn Street because they were scared to walk up it.
I'm still scared now.
So Scotty started gangs.
No, not Scotty, but like
is it the High Rip gang that was from around Scotland?
Yeah.
Around that era, I think. Like
Yeah, early
like,
1900s or something.
Yeah. Like early on, there was like a notorious gang called the High Rip gang.
as negative as it may be, Liverpool is known for its gangs, isn't
Yeah,
it? So
yeah.
it is.
But I think that has to do with the docks as well. You know what I mean? There's definitely a connection with sort of having access to imported goods
Yeah,
and having like
fell off a wagon.
yeah,
that kind
and
of thing,
yeah, you know, everything obviously is coming through the docks
Yeah,
at some point, and yeah, I think that must contribute to how like powerful gangs are in.
yeah.
in
It's so
Liverpool.
interesting though, like because the way Liverpool is now, even though it's quite modern, it's always been this way, just in some fashion. Do you know what I mean? Like there's always been kind of like for the people, kind of doing things,
Yeah.
sorting people out, kind of. Then there's been gangs. Everything's kind of, when you trace Liverpool back, it's always been the same way, but it's just evolved into a modern kind of
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
hasn't it? Definitely. Especially when it comes to like looking out for your own. You know what I mean? Which is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Scottie Press does very much. Always
Yeah,
give the voice
definitely.
of the people who need the voice.
One of the things I see on the website is you're looking to build a legacy. What would you say, like, of being in your, where in the positions you are? What's a legacy you want to bring forward to people who come in after yourselves? What do you want the paper to be like? Similar to what it
Where
is
did you
now.
see the paper in
5 years.
No. So imagine another 50 years. How would you like it to look? Because you could still be about 40.
Yeah. I think in the future.
Yeah, you want it to be a microchip that you put in your head.
Oh,
yeah,
for
yeah.
Scottie Press, yeah.
It's coronavirus as well.
Yeah. You've got the job.
What was I going to say then? What was the question?
I don't know. This is
Legacy. What legacies
what
you want to bring
legacy?
forward
yeah.
from people for yourself, like people in the future who are like involved in the paper?
I just want like kids growing up now to have the same respect that I do for the Scottie Press, because when I was growing up, the Scottie Press was well respected, so I just want that respect to continue, really.
Yeah.
So you just don't think you just get that respect at the minute? Or
Defo.
yeah,
Not to be up our own ass, but we do. Like everyone in the area loves the Scottie Press.
Yeah,
don't
oh
we?
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
Yeah.
And
So
he-
is the plan, sorry, go
No.
on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and even further afield, I reckon what it, like, sort of, obviously the legacy we want to create, and probably the legacy, well, not legacy that we're leaving, but definitely what we're trying to do. We've definitely brought it into, like, the modern era. Like, you know what I mean? It's gone from being like a printed newspaper that when I started, I was literally stapling and folding newspapers, like, you know,
Yeah.
doing it for, you know, now we outsource and, you know, we're doing it a bit more professionally, and we didn't have really a website or a proper online presence. We didn't have social media. So hopefully we're modernizing it and like digitizing it and making it, you know, like a, you know, a modern, you know, media outlet, which, you know, potentially will eventually have podcasting and other
Yeah.
elements of video. You know, Lewis is doing like video, like short documentaries as well. I mean, you know, for the paper that's been going nearly 50 years in February, that's like, you know, that's complete. That's the start
It's
of
the
like
new wave, Scottie
Yeah.
Press.
yeah, that is a new era. So hopefully we can leave that, and you know, because the reality is like, you know, how long's the print presence going to last? You know what I mean? Like we've got the diehards, older generations, the likes of, you know, the Scouse Nans, like my nan, and you know, the older generation who will always want that printed newspaper, no doubt. But it's like, you know, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I very rarely read printed newspapers myself, considering I'm the editor of one. Like, you know, I do sometimes, but I don't a lot. I don't go and buy newspapers a lot, like at all.
I only have them because they're in my hands, to be honest.
Yeah, I have them because like older family members will have them.
But at the same time, it's like we were saying before, there's a gender of newspapers. Like sometimes you think, why would I want to read that newspaper?
Yeah.
When it's all most of the newspapers is bad news. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate it. Like I Nan used to buy the Daily Mail, and she used to buy it because like the crosswords and all that. She was like, I have a little flick through. And I was reading one of the articles one day. I was like, Nan, this is terrible. I was like, what they're actually discussing in here is terrible. I was like, and it was like, it went news. They were literally giving someone just pure abuse and shit. I was like, this is terrible. This is just such a bad way of journalism. Do you know what I mean? And I hated it. Would you say mainly that you try and cover good news rather than bad news?
No,
or was it a
no,
mixture?
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You need a mixture of both.
Yeah, it's that
in the
phrase,
paper,
there's
like-
nothing on the news but the blues. But that needs reporting on, doesn't it?
Either way, I think with stories, even if they can be seen as a positive story, it could be negative for another person. Like, say, if like we were doing a story and it's exposing like a counsellor's done this and like it's been up to all accounts, it'd be positive for the community because we're finding out about what that counsellor's done for the council and the counsellor.
Yeah, subjective, innit?
Yeah, it's subjective. So
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good point. I think good news is a strange term. You could have like a positive story, but you know, you could say, "Oh, this is fantastic. Look at this nice story." But if there's something like horrific happening in the community that no one's bringing light to, then you know you're not really doing your job. So it's like, you know, you have to tackle the big subjects, and whether the news stories sort of positive, the general value in bringing a light to it is
Needed, innit? Definitely needed. And you do a fantastic job of that. So well done.
Cheers,
Just wanted to say.
Hopefully.
Love it. Not even from Scottie and I read it. But with it being Christmas anyway, well, Boxing Day. Before we discuss the best and worst presents you've ever got, what do you want to go with first? Do you want to say worst?
Well, we'll say the worst present you ever got. Do you want me to start just to give you an idea? So
Jay, this was Jay's topic, so I feel like he wants to call someone else.
No, I'm not gonna say who got it.
But my mum got me.
The other year, I think I opened a pair of white undies, which are no longer white. No, I remember one year, because they're in the bin, that's why. I remember one year, it doesn't matter who it was, basically somebody went to America and brought home a t-shirt for me. I was like, that's really nice. It was a Tommy Hilfiger one. I thought it looks a bit glittery though, so I put it on anyway and was like, what size is it? And she was like, I don't know, like I must have been like a small men's at the time, so I turned them round and it had size 6 at the back. It was a women's top,
Nothing wrong with that, mate.
Yeah, it's not. Do you know what?
But the way it fitted, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was quite baggy round the chest area,
sleeves
do you know
and
what I mean?
like
Like baggy
that,
round
like
the
them
chest,
sleeves,
yeah.
No, do you know what? When you asked me this, mate, I genuinely, I don't know whether this is because I'm just not as ungrateful as you, or I'm only messing. No, I genuinely don't think I've ever been bought a present and I've thought, what is that?
You took the words out my mouth. That was the little speech I was going to do.
You just don't want to
put anything under the bus, do you?
No.
I'm a journalist. That's I've got another story. Like I was going to tell another story.
No, do you know I can't? Do you know why it is that? Because I genuinely think I've only ever been bought boss presents. That's why I wanted to say to you, let's say the best and worst, because I haven't got a worst. Have you not got a worst?
What I was going to say is I haven't got a worst because if anyone gets me something, I'm like, I'm made up. Even if it's like
thank you for
literally,
that.
if it's a kind of fucking passion fruit martini, like it's right, it's nice.
Yeah, I don't think I can understand why that's the worst present, because that's like, wow, I can understand that, but I nothing jumped to mind for me. That's why I want.
I've always, that was just one that come to my head. Do you know what I mean?
No, I'm not messing. Jay, by the way, for the record, Jay is one of the most grateful people I know. He's a lovely guy. What about yourself, Joel? Have you got an ungrateful present? I was going to say
Again,
then.
I've not had anything too bad. I've just had things that, you know, I'd
Like, what am I going to do with that?
Yeah. I got a similar come from America, from someone I know. I'm not going to say who. It was obvious if they're listening, obviously. But, it was just basically like Ed Hardy merchandise, which just isn't the style that I would ever wear. And it was like I think it was a satchel and a jacket, but it was, you know, it's like super like over branded, isn't it? It's like
diamonds.
really like in your face, all that. So but managed to sell it on eBay and get a bit of money for it. So I suppose
Win-win.
a bit of a win-win. Yeah.
The best present I've ever bought was for my mum, and I made her cry one year. So I always.
What did you buy?
That's the sign of a good present.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
More a bad present.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, but my
yeah.
mum's very much. Oh, thank you. Have you got the receipt? Do you know what I mean? But one year I got a necklace, and there's 5 of us because they never had a telly, and there was 5 hearts with 5 different initials on of all of us, and she started crying. Like she was like, "Oh my
That's
god."
probably my little nan in it, like
Yeah.
sentimental thing that they can wear on them all the time. Do you know what I mean?
That's the best present I've ever like gifted to
Yeah.
someone.
What about yourselves? Best present you've got or
Gifted.
gifted?
Do you know what I was going to say about the worst one? The worst one that I've ever gifted.
Oh, he's fought. It's all coming out now.
No, it was like, it was a sick present. So I got me nan, granddad, and little brother and sister, or like flights to Switzerland to go and visit my auntie. She lives over there. So I was
That's a good present.
well, hang on. So I was made up. Like,
Let me
I
finish.
made up. Couldn't wait for Christmas Day. Couldn't sleep because I was more excited to give the presents.
That's
to,
how you know it's a good Christmas
yeah,
then,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Anyway, so what did I do? I printed them out like in a little cards and then give everyone a card. Like, oh, we haven't got your presents. So then they all opened the
I'm a
cards.
student.
Yeah. I was a student at the time as well.
Got to be.
Got it with all the fucking student loans that you get. But, yeah,
You was more
so...
minted in uni, wasn't you?
Yeah. God, I was on so much money. That's why I want to go back. But yeah, so I got them flights to Switzerland, and then I think my granddad opened his first, and he went, "What the fuck's this?" And I went, "What do you mean? It's like a flight to Switzerland." And he's like, "Oh, you fucking messing, fuck off, lads." And he's like, because I hadn't booked him like extra luggage on the flight, so he didn't want it.
Did he go?
No, they didn't go. Honestly, me and Kennedy, who's coming on next.
Soon.
It's going to be on them.
Me and her went, and her
Oh,
fella
I
as
remember
well.
you going. Is that what you went?
Yeah, that's where we went. Yeah.
That's funny, that.
Couldn't believe it.
What about yourself, Joel? What?
So that's the worst present you've ever bought, not
Yeah.
been bought.
I know, but
Yeah, but
Worst present? Well, it was deliberately. Well, I don't know. You could say best or worst present I bought someone was. It was for a laugh. It was a cane. But at the top of it was a Yorkshire Terrier's head. So it's like a walking cane.
yeah.
Where'd you get that
Walking
from?
the dog.
That was like
one of them.
that was like a Secret Santa, like laugh.
Yeah.
gift. And then I suppose best gifts. I remember when we were younger, come down into the living room, absolutely massive box, like size of the room, couldn't work out what it was, and it was a massive basketball and that. So that was probably the best present.
Yeah. Do you know what? 2 presents have just come to mind there. This is why I love it's just flowing. Do you know when people start talking like, oh yeah,
Yeah, and it
someone
comes
got me
to
for
you.
Secret Santa once the most pointless present you'll ever get, and it was an unsharpened pencil. It's like, that's good.
Yeah.
And then one year, my dad for Christmas got my sister a phone, and he got her a phone box off someone who'd recently bought a phone and put a stone in it, so it was heavy, and then she unwrapped it and was like, oh my god, and then he undone it, and she started crying, and my mum said like, it was funny, but you're gonna have to go and buy the phone now. So.
Yeah.
But like, she was made up and then absolutely heartbroken. My dad was in bits, and then
cruel.
so cruel. But then he was like, I'm only messing, I'll get you the phone.
Probably the best. So this is. I'd give a shout out to Dan Walker on the camera again. This is a bad shout out this time, lad.
Yeah, and he's from Scottie.
And he's from L5 as well, so it fits with the theme.
What house of fella Scottie Rosa? What house of fella Scottie
Yes,
Rosa?
yeah.
So I was with they got a present for my ex, and it was I planned it for a while.
Yeah,
I planned
he
it
was
for a
made
while.
up. He was over the moon.
I've planned it for a while. It was like, we're going to go away, and the plan was we're going to go to somewhere like in Europe or somewhere abroad. And
Iceland, weren't it?
so we were looking on places to go. I was looking on maybe going to Frankfurt, like Italy and that.
Yeah.
And then decided to go to Iceland in the end. So I kept it a secret. And Christmas Eve, we've come to town for a little last bit of Christmas shopping. Do you know what I mean? So I see him walk out, I'm like, walk out. So I see him, and then we're talking anyway. I'm with my ex, he's with his mate, and we're just talking, and he's talking about he was with his girlfriend at the time, and we going like, how we used to. He's like, we're fine. We're looking on booking a holiday soon. And I was like,
Christmas
oh, yeah.
Eve, by the way.
Christmas Eve, by the way. So
Yeah.
she's gonna find out tomorrow where we're going. She went, we're looking on booking a holiday. I went, oh, where are you looking on booking? He was like, well, we're looking on maybe going to Iceland, but you two are going, aren't you? And I was like,
I think you're messing.
and she was like, are we going to Iceland? And I was like, no, we're not going to Iceland.
but maybe.
So he ruined a 3-month surprise I had.
The day before.
I'll be livid.
But the best present,
Write an article on that, mate. Expose him.
but the best present I ever had, I always remember being made up. My ma got me, Santa got me a pair of gold. Santa got me a pair of gold footy boots, which Milan Baros used to wear.
Speaking of which, Maradona's dead
I know.
today.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that.
And well, it's August.
Sorry. Maradona died a month ago.
I know.
Why is it August, by the way?
He's not funny. I'm only messing. What he's getting at there is we record a bit ahead of time, but not that ahead of time.
So this records in August?
Yeah, so Maradona died a few months back.
We faked the weather. So Maradona dies in a few months.
Well, he died a few weeks ago because it comes out on Boxing Day.
Yeah.
You know what this card's
My
after
head.
that?
Go on.
Oh, you ahead of time.
Basically, it's fucking November.
And Maradona died. But anyway, in work, someone popped up to me like, "Oh my God, are you still there?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And she was like, "Maradona's just died." And I was like, I know, I'd just seen on my phone, and she's like, I messaged everyone just because I can't believe it. And I was like, what, you can't believe Diego Maradona died of a cardiac arrest?
Yeah,
like,
he was like known to just be an absolute party animal.
And she was like, no, I can believe that, but I can't believe he's died. I was like, he's just one of them people you think's going to be there for it.
When I think of Diego Maradona, the first thing I think of is an irregular heartbeat.
The first thing you think of is he's got a short lifespan. You know what I mean? He's a party.
But you're surprised when you hear anyone dies, really. You're never like, yeah, that seems about right. You're like, you don't ever like expect
you're
it to.
surprised they've died because he's a party of life, man.
Probably
he's
one of the best footballers ever lived.
Yeah.
So I'd like to just say on camera, rest in peace, Diego.
Yeah,
if you
rest in
listen.
peace, man. It's just. Do you remember that year though when everyone was dying at once? All the big celebrities like Prince, they were all going, weren't they?
I seen someone put today. It was like it was an article like on Twitter. I think it was about Miley Cyrus. She decided to go sober when she was like 26, but she didn't want to die when she was 27 because there's a big 27 club. And somebody's reply going, "You'd have to be a fucking good singer first."
Do you know that 27 club? Like at 27, rewinding it back to Nat's episode. So Nat's the naked girl.
Yeah.
She does a bit of astrology. She reads your birth chart at the end. She absolutely blew.
Oh my God, that was mad. That
yeah.
She said to me, "You're going to meet somebody big in your life."
And you've got
at the time, I went on a first date with a girl who's now my girlfriend. I was like,
wow.
Yeah.
But
that week it was weird, wasn't it?
At 27 in astrology, you come into this big change in your life where a lot of stuff happens and like it's a big party of life. 27, so that's why people die at 27.
Yeah,
as well.
So 27 soon?
Yeah. No, I turned 27. Yeah.
Oh, you're already 27?
Yeah.
And you're on the podcast. And you're on the podcast
today. No.
He's on the rain next week.
No, but yeah, there's loads, isn't there? Like Jimi Hendrix, Amy Winehouse,
Kurt Cobain, was it?
Kurt Cobain, yeah, absolutely
Janis
loads.
Joplin.
Yeah, Janis Joplin. Yeah.
I used to have a top that had the 27 club on it.
Yeah, that's morbid, that, Lewis. But anyway, speaking of music, album of the week, Blue and Exile. What do we think? You've listened before, have you?
Yeah. I mean, I like sort of like rap and hip hop, so yeah, I listened to it a few years ago.
Is that your cup of tea? Is it like that type of album?
Yeah,
is
well,
it?
I think when I was younger, it was like like proper like indie. You know what I mean? Like you do like sort of Arctic Monkeys, Libertines, all that type of stuff. And then probably as I was going into college, just started listening to a lot more. Like hip hop, rap, sort of.
That's when he started to appreciate music, Jay.
Yeah.
Just in case you haven't listened, Jay's anti-hip hop.
I'm
I was about to say, are you anti-hip hop?
Are you anti-hip hop? I was listening to the album one with me in me lowrider, loving it. You know what? No, it was for me. It was come out in 2007. It was probably like
you can tell. It feels like,
and I think the style of rap as well. Like I don't listen to much rap, but when I do listen to more modern raps, like through this or through my own doing, it seemed a lot different. The style of rap as well. Yeah, it's more about like a lot.
It's more like philosophical and we're talking about like real life. Yeah, because I was like that. Before I got into rap, I was like, I just thought it was gangster rap. I thought that's what rap was like.
A criminal kind of
like 50 Cent and stuff. Who we knew and okay, there's decent tracks, but then I was got into like more like obscure and experimental hip hop, and I was like, this is what I like, and that's what that album was like. And it's also a bit of a sort of coming of age album, I think, as well, because he's quite young in it still.
Yeah. They used like 21, I think.
And he's talking about being in school and sort of breaking through that like. Sort of growing up and becoming your own person and finding your way in life and like meeting a girl and all that. So it's interesting, especially if if you're in your 20s.
Well, Kofu, we had on last week. Well, last month. Kofu, our previous guest, so he's my cousin, and at that time, when he listened to it, he was at that point in his life as well.
What's his name? That's interesting.
He went to your school.
Oh my God, I've got a CD in us.
Harry said that. Harry said he's got a signed
He's
CD.
sick. When will I be famous?
So is he a rapper?
He's done a cover of it.
So he started off as like a rapper, then he transitioned into a singer, producer, and now he's very much a mentor for people in the like hip hop scene in Liverpool as well. He's got his own studio, Go Play Studio. And his episode will be out next week / last week, but like the way we release, we can send you the link to watch though.
Oh yeah,
and it was good because when I first had the podcast, we were listing guests. Like you were one of the first, like that'll be boss. You know what I mean? And then we had a list of people people, and obviously if you've got 15 guests, that's at least 15 weeks to get through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was top, but he had stuff on, so it's good to finally get him on, and then he gave us that album, and I think that album reflects him. Knowing him personally because of his family, I think that's definitely something.
That's good. It's good that if you can listen to an album and
I
think
think
reflection,
I think of him when I think of this.
Yeah,
definitely.
For me, I think I can't remember the first song is, but for me it sounded quite like J. Cole, Wet Dreams. I thought it was like that type of style of rap.
It's conscious
Yeah.
music, yeah.
I thought it was good though. I thought I quite enjoyed it. I think
So are you now?
quite about.
You know, Mr. Hip-hop?
No, I'm not anti hip hop anyway.
No, Mr. Hip Hop, I said.
No, I'm not Mr. Hip Hop. I'm Master Hip Hop at the minute.
Grandmaster Mac.
Yeah, Grandmaster Mark. Yeah.
What album between yourselves are you gonna pick then? Oh, we spilled a bevy there.
Yeah, I've
he,
spilled a bevy.
he hasn't got the job.
Don't worry if you haven't got one. We'll ask you the question again. Have you got one, by the way? Yeah.
Well, I was going to just say Black Eyed Peas.
What's the album called though? Let's have a look.
I know.
I think it's Where Is the Love, you know, because they were slapping question marks everywhere.
So album of the week. Have you got an album to pick for yourselves? Like anything that you?
Decide amongst yourselves. By the way, I've just noticed. Is this the Scottie Press uniform? Because you're wearing matching. I didn't even
Yeah,
notice.
it's the unofficial uniform.
The editor wears navy.
Shit.
On Boxing Day, we wear navy.
Do you know what? I only wore this because it's just like a nice little fit and so it makes you look skinny.
Under those, do you wear a t-shirt? This is a common question. This no. See, I would wear a
Yeah,
plain
wouldn't.
t-shirt.
yeah, I've got a t-shirt.
Yeah, some people go for vests as well, but
Well,
for
they
me,
normally do,
I like
but
the
I
shape.
reckon-
off my chest.
I reckon yours is more jumpery and yours is a bit more t-shirty.
Yeah, I'd say that
style
as well. Yeah, this
Yours is a bit.
thicker,
Yours is a
isn't
bit more denier than
These
that.
are from
Yeah.
Marxies, only 20 quid.
Yeah, plug
it?
it.
Decent.
The official sponsor this week's Marks and Spencer's.
And the brand new long sleeve t-shirts.
It's not just a sweater. It's an M&S sweater.
So anyway, yeah, back to your album of the week anyway. What have you went for? What have you decided to go for?
Well, I'm just going to say Black Eyed Peas, Elephant.
Why?
You found out in next week's episode. But it's just a groovy
It's
album.
nostalgic,
It's
isn't it?
nostalgic, that's it.
Who,
Yeah.
who didn't like the Black Eyed Peas back then?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know who does love the Black Eyed Peas. Find out in next week's episode.
No, but on that album, I've just had a little look. Then there's some big uns. There's some big
Yeah.
uns. You'll know the album as well as all four of them on the front, and there's an elephant as well.
Yeah.
Believe
No,
it or not.
I remember watching. So this is a thing of the past, personally, but watching that music video.
On
Where Is
Yahoo
the
Music.
Love?
Is
What?
it Yahoo Music?
No, I think it was MTV, mate. Why? What was Yahoo Music?
But you just used to go to the computer club. Does anyone do that? And like watch a Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, yeah.
videos
Is
and-
Where
No.
Is Your Love? Is it an old poem?
Where is your...
Is it a poem?
Yeah, is it like an old poem?
Is it?
It's a cover of like a really old poem.
No
Is
way.
it? Yeah.
Is it? I don't know. Actually, I thought it was.
What's
Yeah.
wrong with the world, mama?
Let's
Yeah.
get it up.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It talks about dropping bombs and that.
I
So,
know.
but do you think?
Oh, yeah, maybe
Do you
not
think
then,
Where
yeah,
Is the
maybe
Love
not.
might be an old poem itself? Where
I
Is the
don't-
Love?
I had a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's another one of their tunes.
Yeah.
I gotta feel it. We're all drunk.
Come on.
It might Google it, lad.
I know. I'm gonna Google.
Come
it.
on,
Jacob,
Jack.
can we
Is it-
fact check that?
What's
Well,
this?
Is Where Is the Love an old poem?
Meet him halfway.
I don't know
come on.
why. I did have a feeling, but it potentially it is.
Yeah. Get off my humps. Oh, I can't wait to watch this one back.
Do you still watch it back then? Like,
So we have to, lad. Every week we have to.
Yeah.
So we don't have to, but like it's probably best.
Just let it go. Up
Yeah,
there.
you don't want to just let it
You
go
don't
out
want
there.
to next thing we're cancelled.
Yeah, you don't want to talk for an hour and put it out on the internet and then be like, oh, so we kind of watch it just to enjoy it, and also Jacob would like these clips for the
No,
internet.
but like,
and also definitely take that bit out.
no, but
So you should invite someone for a dinner party.
Yeah.
That's why he doesn't have a mic. Exposed.
I
You
watch
should
it,
have a mic, by the way.
I watch it back every week and think, look at myself and go, you know what, you asked a good question there. And then sometimes I go, what the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah.
Why does that come out your mouth?
I find it dead hard to like even like not what obviously we don't have to watch it, but even when
we're
I'm-
transcribing and that.
when we're transcribing, so I'll go and interview someone and then record it and then write it out and write an
Yeah.
article about it. And it's just like listening back to yourself. It's good
You'll
because
pick
you
yourself
learn.
apart, don't you?
You pick yourself apart. You learn. You get better from it. But you're just like, oh my god.
It's another level of awareness. For me, the
Yeah.
first episode we done, and like I don't know whether I have evolved like as a person or as a host or whatever from the first episode, or just the way I view it is I'm not that arsed. The first episode I was so critical, like that.
Yeah, I was.
What am I doing? And now I'm like, yeah, I just let that go. But I feel like it's always, I've always been the same. It's just the way you perceive it, watching
Yeah,
it back,
definitely.
because it's to see what other people see. That's quite unnatural, isn't it?
Yeah,
to like
yeah.
see yourself from a fucking wide angle camera and hear yourself.
as well.
Yeah, you don't sound anything like you think you sound in your head, do you?
Well, I've dead seen the video on this because I reckon I look like a big fat cunt.
Do you
I'm gonna
video
tell
for
you.
your podcast?
No, I
Just
just
audio?
audio. So
Pretty better that way.
it's defo because like
Full pressure.
I've had to diet for this because I thought I'm going to be on video. I need to lose a bit of weight.
It's all like that.
Yeah, honestly.
I'll edit it so you look good, mate.
So Elephant, yeah.
Elephant it is.
Telephone.
What's next, Jay?
The
dad jokes?
I don't know.
Before the dad jokes, though, what we learned today?
That's you at the end, and Jack, you're taking my section here, by the way. You do the introductions, I do the end, mate. You know what I mean?
Do you know what I learned
Do
today?
you know what, Jack? That's my New Year's resolution coming forward for next week. to give you strict roles.
Do you know what I noticed? Do you know what I noticed today in August? So Jay asks at the end of every podcast, so what we learned today? And I feel like he's been proper pushing that, and like he loves it, and I love it myself. When I watch it back, I'm like, that's great. But every week, lad, you better believe I forget to ask, what have we learned today? So I just want to say on air, thank you, lad, because it's a fantastic part of the podcast. It's like a little wrap up. But I
Jack,
never,
you know what? You've saved yourself well then.
No, but-
You've got to have a statement.
No, honestly, no.
Now we're going on together.
Like, never do I think to ask that question, but every week I'm like, I've just took it for granted, like you did with your fucking Ed Hardy t-shirt. But
Sure.
that was it. What was yours?
Which?
Your t-shirt that you got?
It was Tommy Hilfiger.
Tommy Hilfiger, sorry. But no, honestly, like that. What have we learned today is a good little wrap up. I love it. So what have we learned today? What have you learned today?
Well, we need to do the dad jokes first.
Oh, do you do that after? That's why he does it.
But dad jokes, somebody forgot the book today. This guy.
So what have we learned today? Don't trust.
So have you got any good
dad?
dad jokes? Anybody got any?
I don't know any off the top. I'm trying to think. of
I've
any
got a
off the
boss
top.
dad joke. A boss dad joke. Don't let me.
I've got
Let
one.
me just go. Let me
No,
just
let me
straight
just,
edge you.
no, let me just get my phone. I've got a boss.
I've only got the dead obvious one, and we can do it because it's festive season. What did the snowman say to the other snowman? Can you smell carrot?
Let me get this joke up. Where is it? Oh no, I can't. I defo can't say that.
The one that Beck had a few weeks ago was good about the balloons.
The balloon one was.
That was a great one, though. Have I got any off the top of my head whilst we wait before we go into the interval?
In the intermission.
I haven't, to be fair.
My son might be the best. My son might not be the best roofer in the world, but he's definitely up there. And then another one was, so me and Jay are in a group with Crackle. So like the lads that were on Crackle were on it. It's now been, obviously Crackle was in August, so we've changed the group chat name. But this is another one that come in. I built a model of Mount Everest and my son asked, is it to scale? And I replied, no son, it's just to look at. So it's so terrible, but you're laughing it. But yeah, on it. So
We need Christmas dad jokes. That's what we need.
we do, yeah. Let's get Christmas
Should we
dad
look
joke, yeah.
Christmas dad jokes.
Yeah, we love. Jacob, can you this is something I'm gonna ask you off camera as well. But can you put like little snow in the corner? Do you reckon, like make it look
I reckon
festive?
we can try that.
Yeah. Christmas dad jokes. This won't be in the final cut, by the way.
So
You're woeful at jokes.
It's amazing
Do you know
how
what
many
those-
you
I
hear,
am
but
a
Mm.
they
joke.
just don't.
They don't register. Do you know
No,
why? Because you go,
but-
haha.
Yeah, I just never remember them.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I never remember.
I
jokes.
I've got a good one. What kind of cars does Santa's elves drive?
This one says, what motorcycle does Santa drive?
Toy Otas.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This one is... what do you call a snowman with a six-pack? An abdominal snowman. That's not even...
All of mine, can't view them.
got it. That's a good one. How does a snowman get to work? Bicycle?
We should have got Christmas crackers, the jokes.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
that's what they are, aren't they?
And here they are! No, I haven't really got them.
You should have got the Christmas flavours.
How do we know Father Christmas has had his tea? How do we know Father Christmas has had his Christmas dinner? He posted it on Instagram. That's terrible, Dave.
Nah, is that-
It reads better.
It's terrible.
Bear with me. What do you call a smelly Santa? Father Christmas.
That was terrible.
These are
that.
terrible.
They're all
They
terrible.
really
I
bad.
thought
They're
that icicle one was probably the best.
Cheers.
Where
That
do
was-
Christmas plants go when they want to become a movie star? Hollywood, that's terrible. Out.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But do you reckon that'd be terrible over the table as you're eating your turkey?
Yeah. Probably even worse.
Do you know what I
Listen,
love?
shut up and eat your
Do you know what I
scrap.
love? In a cracker, you get like the little not pliers, like tweezers, or that tool where you've got to like unloop it. Do you know what I mean? Or the rope and that. I love all them, mate. Or the fish. You know, on the fish that curls in your hand and it tells you what it means.
Not really Christmas orientated, but
We'll
joke.
save it, Jay, because this is Christmas special in August.
Find out next week about this joke. No, I remember seeing on the back of a penguin, why can't penguins talk?
Because they have a beak.
Because they're a chocolate digestive biscuit.
That's the best one so far.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
I seen on the back of a penguin once. What does a mummy penguin say to a baby penguin? Be careful.
That's just their sense of humour, you know. I can imagine you pissing yourself at that in yours. So anyway, what have we learned today? That Scottie Press community
Fantastic.
paper is fantastic.
And the
with
uniform is available in Marks and Spencer.
and if you want to get a good Ed Hardy jumper, then get on Joel.
Yeah.
Did he get the job?
Oh, yeah, to get the job.
Find out next week.
Find out next week on the Minerva podcast.
Nah, yeah. You've definitely got the job based on your reference.
Brilliant, thanks, Joel.
Yeah, no,
Everyone.
Great. Keep doing what you're doing.
No, but
boys. Love
if
it.
you get opportunity, there's visit the website to
What's
have a
your
little
Instagram?
look.
Just Scottie Press.
What is
I
it?
think we're Scottie Press newspaper on Instagram,
Yeah.
Scottie Press news on Facebook, and just Scottie_Press on Twitter.
I love it. And what's the code for your discount in Marxies?
It is
Lewis, what's your Italian surname?
Palambella.
Palambello 20 for 20% off. That
Louis
is
Palambella.
Louis Palambella for
Yeah.
20% off.
And if you
That's
want to
proper
read,
Italian, that.
Is
Louis
it?
Palambella.
Louis
if you-
Palambella.
if you just want to read the newspaper, if I wanted to, if any of the guests would like to read to, how would they get an opportunity to read it?
Well, we've not published since
Yeah.
COVID, but we're gonna on the 50th anniversary, so this February we're doing a printed edition. You know,
Yeah.
regardless, like so.
We'll buy that, hang it up in the studio.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
free?
we'll send you.
Is it free?
It's going to be free.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, it'll be free.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll buy it anyway.
Nice one.
Support your local
Newspaper.
yeah. But then we're going to launch a membership, aren't we?
Oh,
in
yeah,
and
yeah.
around that time.
Oh, yeah, so get a membership.
Yeah, so you can get a membership if you
boss.
want as well. But yeah, so you can get it wherever's open in February. Potentially we might all be in lockdown again, so we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah.
If not, it might be delivery, so we'll see. But if not, everything goes online.
Boss.
Get online.
That's a wrap.
And that's time.
Merry Christmas. See you in the new year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.